Hot best ball summer has officially arrived. We have a big show on tap today. 2 more Best Ball Mania drafts for $3 million. Drafts number 88, Des caught it, and 89 here coming down the pike. On top of that, we got new merch for our piss boys that love wide receivers out there. Maybe you guys will let me do a 0 RB draft for once. We also have Dylan Stone coming on. He recently submitted a very intriguing piece about which running backs to target for the Best Ball Data Bowl, which submissions are coming to a close soon here. We're going to talk to him between drafts. And also, I mentioned this on Twitter, but we have cold brew season here. No hot coffee pour. It's going to be a cold pour today. Buckle up. It's Best Ball Breakfast.
Oh, another Influencer 101 for the backward hats, bro. Rigged!
Zach Ertz with no Tyler Algier bringback? Yikes.
You reached around for correlation? That's a no-no. You ADP bros disgust me. How about you just live a little?
Handcuffing might actually be a way to get unique if the field's avoiding it.
The Wi-Fi at this resort is a disaster?
These fucking streamers don't have player takes. What if a piss boy draft is the room you need?
Oh!
All right, as Tyler says, biggest of GMs to the badass best ball breakfast bros and broettes. Look at that alliteration here. Siegs wants to know, or his boss wants to know why I've scheduled a meeting every Monday at 10 a.m. That is the sharp move. You just put the calendar invite there. It's blocked off. Sorry, boss. Can't come chop it up. I got to watch Peter draft best ball teams here. GMs all around. Nick says, rookies report for 9 teams tomorrow. What a glorious day. Yeah. Rookie coming, training camps coming, preseason coming, hard knocks coming. Best ball is in the air. GMs. Casey, I think we need to do it right out of the gate. I think we got to get to this cold brew pageantry because my ice is melting. So I did put this on Twitter that this is going to be a little controversial because, you know, frankly, the setup and the logistics for a cold brew pour are different than a hot coffee pour. And I know a lot of you guys are resistant to change. Trust me, I saw what happened when we had to flex feeding the ducks from the second draft to the first draft on Wednesdays. I know I could have a mutiny on my hand, but right now, as it's reaching, 90 degrees in Massachusetts, it's too hot for me to drink hot coffee. So we have a glass full of ice. Some people said they wanted to hear the ASMR effects of ice clinking against the glass. Everyone be quiet. There you go. Next up, we have our cold brew concentrate here. We do 1/3 cold brew concentrate. Here it comes. There we go. About 1/3 there. We're going to keep a little left in the chamber for a second here. Next up, we have the water. Don't do full cold brew concentrate. Otherwise, you will be hopping off the walls. All right. And now the final part, the prestige. Here you go. The stir. I know that stir is getting all you ASMR freaks out there. And there she is, a beautiful cold brew to kick off hot best ball summer. There we go. Hopefully, I'm going to catch up on the reviews on this. Cold brew curveball. Hey, it wasn't a curveball. I tipped you off on Twitter. Let's see here. Catching up on the chat. Try some ice water, brother. Come on. No, we got to get some coffee going here. Nick got an underwear ad to start this stream. That's what I like to hear. Finally getting some money from big underwear here. I am drinking out of a Guinness glass, as Nick noted. I find the Guinness glasses to be very good cold brew glasses. Oh, that's nice. All right, so you guys are on board here. Oh, DG booing me here. No, I used my same coffee. I stirred the ice for you. Everyone relaxed. I knew you guys would like the stir. That should be paywall. That should be paywalled there. I made homemade cold brew. Had the full drip going yesterday. I used the Pete's Coffee dark roast. The reviews are mixed, but look, you guys got to learn to grow. We need to learn to, what do we say? What's been the theme here about drafting on this channel this summer, pushing outside of our comfort zone, guys? Sometimes you got to try different structures, both in your best ball drafts and in your coffee. Sometimes you can't just do 0 RB hot coffee every day. Sometimes you need to sprinkle in a double anchor RB build. All right. Paul said his entire team agreed to cancel a meeting. What a glorious day. Thank you, Andy. I appreciate Andy giving me the stamp of approval. The truth is, guys, like, you know, I care about you. I care what you say, but I don't really give a fuck if you don't like my cold brew, because I need cold brew on these hot summer days here. Yeah, Clay, of course, the guy who lives in Brooklyn says a mason jar is how cold brew should be delivered. Yeah, and I'm sure I should have done what do they do? Like when you get your Guinness in Ireland and they put like a shamrock in the foam. I'm sure they're doing, you know, latte art over there in Brooklyn. Some of us are just in our basement, Clay, here in the suburbs, not living that Brooklyn life. Okay. I'm sorry that I can't keep up with your guys' goals there. All right. I just registered for a draft. I tried to tip people off in the Discord, and believe it has already filled here. This is going to be draft number. What number is this? 88. Draft number 88 there. Let's get all of our stuff on the screen. Let's get this draft board up here and see where we are drafting. Oh, surprise, surprise. 112. 112. Can we ever get an early slot these days? It does not appear possible. I see some familiar faces in here. TM Longacre is in all of my drafts and yet doesn't have a badge. I swear you should get a badge just for being in all of my drafts. I see M Wolf. Ooh, I see JGFC, who's never not been in a draft with me. I see Easy of Correlation Sheet and Deposit Kingdom fame. All right, should be a fun one here on the channel. Let me make sure. How is my stuff? Can we see the draft board? Is the draft board good? Draft board looks good. I think we're ready to cook. I think we are ready to cook here on Best Ball Breakfast. Drafted a few fast puppies over the weekend. Normally, I haven't been drafting much outside of streams and a couple slow drafts. I've been doing some weekly winter slow drafts, but did get in the puppy streets. And I'm excited to see if anything's different today. We had two big pieces of news over the weekend. We got Joe Mixon taking a big pay cut to stay in Cincinnati, almost $4 million pay cut this year, almost $4 million or over $4 million pay cut next year as well. So that's an interesting wrinkle. I assume we're going to see him starting to creep up into the mid to early fourth round of drafts. And then, of course, DeAndre Hopkins to the Titans. I don't think much should change ADP-wise based on this decision, other than Tannehill coming up. Tannehill definitely deserves to come up. I think where Hopkins was going in the mid-fourth still seems about right. You know, he would have moved up to the mid to early third if he went to the Bills or the Chiefs, but the Titans seems whatever, neutral. And same for Treylon Burks. I think just knowing that Tannehill is going to be playing 17 games is going to be a boost for that offense, because it could have gotten really, really bad with Will Levis for Treylon Burks, as much as we would have been excited about the 25+% target share upside. So I think you can have more confidence in the overall Titans offense. It would be hard to think that DeAndre Hopkins would agree to go play 17 games with Will Levis or Malik Willis or whatever scrub they're trotting out there. So seems like we're getting another year of Ryan Tannehill. The Titans could be pretty fun. We've seen them succeed with this configuration, and now you're basically just swapping out an older DeAndre Hopkins for A.J. Brown, and they're going to try to run it back again with the big dog. But this time they do have a worthwhile second receiver in Treylon Burks. But we are about to pick here at 112. CeeDee Lamb comes off the board. I have a familiar set of faces here. Garrett Wilson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Devontae Adams. You know what? I'm slightly over Devontae Adams, which I like to be, but I've also been wanting to get a little bit more of that Detroit-Dallas game. We're just going to be an ADP bro here and go Garrett Wilson and Amon-Ra. I will admit, in the puppy, I've started to do some Galaxy Brain pairings at the one turn, just knowing that that contest is going to fill a lot faster. So I feel more comfortable that ADP movements aren't going to ruin Galaxy Braining. So I'll do, Garrett Wilson with Chris Olave. I did a Devontae Adams with Devonta Smith, combos that I don't think are going to be as common when that contest closes. Let's see the fill rate on the puppies. Yeah, the fast puppy's already at 65% full. So I do think if you're trying to Galaxy Brain some unique combos, it makes much more sense to do in, what do the pros call them? The snapshot contest, the time lock contest. What are they calling them these days? Nick says, will Tannehill's ADP rise? He's been free all summer, but now has some weapons, and I completely agree that essentially locks him into 17 games. I think he has to rise, but the question is it significant? I mean, you look at this ADP range here, he seems like he should be going around after Brock Purdy, but before Bryce Young. Just looking at this ADP, that would be my hunch. Do you guys think differently? Feels like he should be ahead of Stroud, ahead of Howell, ahead of Mac Jones, but not ahead of Purdy and Pickett. I'm going to put him right there at ADP of 175. That's where I'm going to call Ryan Tannehill's efficient ADP. Welcome, Sam, becoming a YouTube member. If you guys become YouTube members, you guys get access to the Best Ball After Dark interview series. Those are just for you YouTube members on the channel. I did a fun one with Jen Eakins from 4 for 4 on, when was that? Saturday night. Have a full backlog there that you get access to when you become a member. And this week I have Ron Stewart, who you guys have seen on Ship Chasing. You guys know him from his YouTube channel, which just hit 25,000 subs as well. So I think I'm going to be doing a double header with Ron on Friday. I'm going to do a draft on his channel, and then we're going to pop over to my channel to do a Best Ball After Dark. So if you guys are YouTube members, you get access to that. And I will also try to tip you off when I enter drafts within the private Best Ball Breakfast channel within the Deposit Kingdom Discord. If you become a Best Ball Value Hound, you also get access to that. We got Mark with the super chat. Happy to free rolls Pete streams next year if his late draft position every time I get in the stream with him benefits me with a finals run. That was a mouthful, Mark, but you know what? I'm happy to hear that you're being a team player here. We will continue to paywall Tyler's comments for the video watchers only. If you're listening to this on the In a Vacuum podcast feed, I've had to start to censor Tyler's comments. They are too incendiary and salacious to read out loud. Someone commented the other day that they thought I had a good vocabulary, so now I'm going to really push it by saying words like incendiary and salacious whenever I can. All right, let's see here. Sam says, excited to watch the shit show with Gretch, going back and do that now. Oh, yeah, that was the Gretch and I did a back-to-back randomizer followed by a Best Ball After Dark, and we were both extremely boozy for the Best Ball After Dark. I agree. Easy says, this isn't such a huge piss boy room. If T. Higgins falls to the third round, it's not a piss boy room. That's kind of my general rule of thumb. We also see Jonathan Taylor, Pollard, Barkley all go here before Devonta Smith, which generally doesn't happen in piss boy rooms. Let's see here. I will happily smash Ramondre here if someone wants to give him to me at 311. Does someone want to give me Ramondre at 311? Vincent, 125X. Do you want to give me Ramondre at 311? No, you did not. That would have been a gift. Wait, Breece Hall already went? Wow, Breece Hall going at 3-4. Not scared. So this is an interesting spot here, right? I have two wide receivers that I basically never take. I have said, like, I am not taking DK Metcalf in the early third. If I'm going to get my exposure to Metcalf, it is going to be late third, early fourth. So I will value hound DK Metcalf 8 picks past ADP here. And now let's see, is there anything else I want to do? I really want to keep this Calvin Ridley bit going. Man, lots of interesting conversation about Jerry Jeudy these days. People making Fuck it. Let's do Calvin Ridley. I'll do it. We'll do, if Calvin Ridley's going to slide here, 5 picks past ADP, let's do it. There you go. People got mad at me for not drafting enough Jags. The Calvin Ridley bid is dead. I've now drafted him 2 weeks in a row on Best Ball Breakfast. There you go. But I value hounded it. What I'm really doing is I just needed to do promotional material here for the new I Love wide receivers. We got the Piss Boy drip on the wide receiver bucket hat there. We got the tanks. These are in the store. The link is down below if you want to get your I Love wide receiver Piss Boy merch. My team through 4 rounds: Garrett Wilson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DK Metcalf, and Calvin Ridley. Certainly a pairing of wide receivers I do not have together yet. Double value. Should we give it an old school? Oh, mm. Mm. All right. Anything else? What are our friends doing in this draft? So TM Longacre doing the thing I do not love. I don't like doing the Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson 2-3 turn pick because it's not, you're not going to be able to get it that frequently, but you still can get this Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson from the 3-4 range in certain drafts. So I still don't like doing the reach for it there. M. Wolf did the Chase Devonta Higgins. That's fun because it is hard to get Chase Smith and Higgins on the same team. And now he will take Burrow in the early 5th, which is a very fun pairing there, especially when you're able to sneak in Devonta Smith there. JGFC, who's always known to get weird in these drafts, goes Bijan, Waddle, Gibbs, London. That actually feels pretty normal. Easy. Oh, Easy starting to get spooked about some Derrick Henry, Steve. We're now taking Derrick Henry at pick 16. Everyone's getting a little bit more excited about the big dog now that Ryan Tannehill's back there. Diggs, Henry, Josh Allen. Josh Allen with Diggs coming back in the 3rd is nice. And then Watson. Mile High Magic. What are you using to get the draft percentages on there? This is the Bric Draft Caddy. If you go to the draftcaddy.com, you can get it on there. You can get your exposures. It also has the auto suggester, a bunch of other features. If you're playing on DraftKings, it has the what they call the Karain killer. The auto drafter still works over there on DraftKings, I believe. Link is in the description, or you can go to thedraftcaddy.com. What's up? AF1776 says sup, and I say sup back. Oh yeah, Andy says, what is the draft capital thing? So this is another part of the draft caddy. It's basically taking Leone's bucket research that he did based on last year's Best Ball Mania data, and it dynamically updates as you go through the draft here to see how much draft capital you're spending at a position. It's basically a more elegant way of looking at like structures, because when you used to just say like 0 RB, you're having to define it by round. In the draft capital buckets actually assign a numerical value to each draft pick slot and then tell you how much you're spending at each position, almost as if you're thinking about the each pick as an auction value. And so these target buckets are based on last year's data. And we were actually talking about this in the Best Ball Breakfast channel the other day about which ones there might be signal to and which ones you should maybe ignore. I feel like the tight end one is a little wait. So hang on, I'm explaining draft capital buckets. So Joe Mixon re-ups with the Bengals, and now he falls to 512 here. I thought the Joe Mixon discount days were over. I thought they were over. You know what we're going to do? We're going to do a structure that I don't do a ton. We're going to do a double anchor out of the 5-6 round. We're going to go Joe Mixon and Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker is one of my favorite picks in this range. I've actually been wanting to get more J.K. Dobbins too. I might have done the Dobbins Walker there, but the Mixon slide, What's going on in this room? I could have sworn Mixon was going to jump up into the 4th round at least. And now Mixon's falling to 60. I mean, Joe Mixon is a piece of shit. I don't want to root for him, but I'm also playing a game along with everyone else. And Joe Mixon at pick 60 after a lot of the risk. Did I miss a news report? Is the suspension coming? Goodness. Okay. All right, here's the team through 6 rounds. Joe Mixon, Kenneth Walker at running back, wide receiver Garrett Wilson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DK Metcalf, Calvin Ridley. This could be a fun team. The chat rats are a wolf pack this morning. That's right. Lots of ahs. Lots of ahs. Yeah, I'm confused about the Mixon thing because I'm double confused because one, we established that this isn't like a hardcore piss boy room. And number 2, I thought the market was going to have more confidence on Joe Mixon after he re-upped with Cincinnati, because there was a legitimate shot. If Mixon didn't take that pay cut, they're just cutting him. They weren't going to pay him. The $10.1 million was not guaranteed. And they were just going to say, screw you, we'll sign Fournette, we'll sign Zeke, we'll sign Cook or whatever, although Cook's probably not giving them a discount. We'll just sign someone for cheap, and then we'll rock with Chase Brown and Travion Williams. And they like Chase Brown and Travion Williams. So I think they would have been perfectly content letting Mixon walk and then signing a free agent and rocking with the rookie and the incumbent Travion Williams. Mixon realizes that dynamic. Mixon does not want to go out in the free agent dust heap with those other guys where there's basically no market for their services, no leverage. And it's a win-win, I think. I mean, maybe not a win for Mixon because he's losing out on like $8 million, but I don't know what his option was, right? He's getting cut and then no one else is paying him $10 million to play this year. So Mixon, I think, smartly just stays in Cincinnati, doesn't have to move, gets to compete for a Super Bowl, gets to play with Joe Burrow, and doesn't have a ton of competition on the roster. As far as, you know, last year, Samaje Perine came on down the pike, pretty good, but I don't know, pretty good run out, I think, for Mixon. So I don't know. I'm trying to figure out why this draft room gave him to me at 60, but I will take it. The wide receivers have heated up here a little bit. Seeing a bunch more running backs at the top of the board. I'm not opposed to a couple of these wide receivers, though. I probably will grab at least one of them, just making sure if there's anything else I need to do. The tight ends got kind of wiped out. Let's see here. I think I'm good at quarterback. I'm good at tight end. I guess Montgomery's a little interesting here, sliding past ADP. We could do something with Montgomery and Cooks. We also have the Amon-Ra St. Brown. I say we build this out. We're just getting all the running backs I normally don't select. Yeah. I do the Bateman and Flowers on so many teams, especially when I have stuff with Waddle, if I have Lamar. But let's build out this Detroit-Dallas here, and we'll continue to value hound a bit. So our team through 8 rounds, we got Joe Mixon, 14-pick ADP discount. Kenneth Walker, 9-pick ADP discount. David Montgomery, 6-pick ADP discount. So those are our running backs. And then wide receivers, Garrett Wilson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DK Metcalf, Calvin Ridley, and Brandon Cooks. A lot of value hounding. Here this morning. And yes, we got week 17 going. Andy, you shouldn't have to do anything to turn the draft capital thing on. What you do need to do, though, is you probably need to get the newer version. You probably have the old version of the Draft Caddy. So if you go to the draftcaddy.com and re-download the Chrome extension, the new version, then it'll be updated. Easy likes my team. What's Easy done so far? Christian Watson, Godwin, Evans, Miles Sanders, James Cook. Yes, Sanders value in this draft room as well. What was Sanders ADP? 64, and he falls to 81. This is a weird room. I hate, like, I know I use those terms as like one of my rooms or a weird room or whatever. This is a weird room in that it's not a piss boy room, and yet there's still a lot of running back values because the wide receivers didn't get mega pushed up. We should check in on Treylon Burks' ADP. He goes at pick 70 here. What was his ADP heading in here? So right at ADP still. But Johnston, Dotson, I guess Elijah Moore goes a little early here, but Gabe Davis at 74, Pickens, all of this seems relatively normal for these wide receivers. Y Gref became a YouTube member. Sorry, I was trying to figure out how to pronounce your YouTube username there. Welcome. Thank you. Dab K wants the chat to decide your 18th round pick so we get a pizza party after this ships. Hey, normally if I do not have strong conviction on my 18th round pick, which I normally don't have strong conviction, maybe that's a personality flaw. His beige flag is he doesn't have conviction on his 18th round selections. I should get back to doing like hyper niche specific TikTok trends. His beige flag is he passes on Joe Mixon 8 picks past ADP. First Sanders share. Yeah, I do not have much Sanders. But when you do get him, like the Sanders stuff, and we've had this talk before about like the Josh Jacobs thing from last year. And what made the Josh Jacobs thing interesting is you had a guy who was going in the running back dead zone who then fell outside of the dead zone into 0 RB price ranges. And when you're getting guys like Miles Sanders or David Montgomery after pick, 80, it starts to get pretty interesting where these can be the first pick in a 0 RB build. I wonder, I'll see what kind of build I end up with here. Having 3 straight running back picks in 5, 6, and 7. I have a lot of like fun flexibility I could do here as far as kind of like a hyper fragile or like a more lean build and just play Joe Mixon and Kenneth Walker as if they were 1-2 turn picks. Because I do think that is the thesis, right? If you win Best Ball Mania, it's because with this build, it's because Kenneth Walker and Joe Mixon were being massively discounted and then perform like top 10 running backs. And then if you build that team accordingly, it means you can use less picks on running backs in this range. The problem is sometimes the best picks on the board remain running backs, but it's something I'm definitely open to here. Now, an interesting decision here as far as how I want to play the quarterbacks if I'm building out this Detroit-Dallas stuff. I'm definitely taking Pat Freiermuth here. I do not have a tight end. I built out 2 things here with Seattle with Kenneth Walker and DK Metcalf. So I am going to grab Freiermuth here. It's so interesting to see Tyler Boyd on the board because I never select Tyler Boyd, it seems like, because he always goes early in these wide receiver avalanche rooms. He doesn't make sense on this team, but just interesting to see his name up here. So now I'm really trying to think through how I kind of want to play the quarterback thing, because I could take either Geno or Dak. If I let this go by, like neither Geno or Dak are coming back to me. So the other thing is I don't particularly want to do both Dak and Jared Goff. I don't think it's bad, but it's not my preference here. So I think what I'm actually going to do is just reach a teeny bit for Geno and lock up this Seattle bet I've made with Geno Smith, Kenneth Walker, and DK Metcalf. And then what that's going to hopefully do is at the 11-12 turn, it gives me a more palatable price on Jared Goff. That would be right at his ADP. And I would prefer to play the quarterback through the wide receiver I drafted earlier in Amon-Ra St. Brown. The other thing is, even if I get shut out on Jared Goff, I do still have some other stuff I can do late at quarterback. Aaron Rodgers might also slide to this spot. So that was like the tough spot I was thinking about, that even though Dak was ahead of Geno in ADP, I wanted to give myself outs to that game via Jared Goff, and I'll also have the Aaron Rodgers backstop. So that was kind of a tricky spot there, but I think I've made a bigger bet on Detroit, Dallas being my bring back there with Cooks. I already have Montgomery. I already have Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I think I'd rather play for Goff than Dak. I'm curious what you guys think in that spot. Looks like the chat was conflicted. We had a Dak Rodgers. Someone had said Dak. Tyler was on board with Geno. Yes, we took a QB, Geno and Goff. Doom, what do you think I'm not going to build a little anticipation for you guys over here? Of course. How fun would it be if I just snap picked and didn't talk through what I was thinking through? ML says, I'm impressed how Pete brings it down to like a second or two. Not sure how he gets it in nearly all the time like that. Lots of practice. If you guys have been watching the randomizer streams on Thursdays, we have a prompt we've been doing every episode, which is we put a bad player in the queue, and then the guest can't tell me who they want until there's 1 second left on the clock. And then it's if I can get that player from the queue over in time so we don't get the penalty pick. So that's been sharpening my reflexes. I also draft with Sean on Wednesdays, and Sean will often wait until the last second to reveal who he really wants. I'm constantly trying to decipher his words. So I have a lot of practice. Okay. I have a lot of practice with this stuff. Sometimes it backfires though. Sometimes you go to select Durham Smythe as your fourth tight end when you're drafting with Pat Kerrane, and instead you get Ezekiel Elliott because the positional limits didn't let you select a fourth tight end. So sometimes you play with fire and you get burnt. Nick wants to change it. He's saying I've gotten too good at it. All right. Maybe the thing is I'm blindfolded until a second out, because I guess you could accuse me of cheating a little bit, of kind of being like, all right, looking at this team, this is who they want. Maybe I'm going to inch closer, try to guess. Basically like a goalie during penalty kicks, right? Where the pick is coming so fast, the kick is coming so fast that they basically have to guess in a direction. They're not even really able to read things. Maybe that's how we need it, where I take the blindfold off and I just have to guess. And that's the only way I can be correct. Aaron Rodgers does go at pick 124. Aaron Rodgers is certainly a quarterback that I've seen fall when, especially if you're the Garrett Wilson drafter from the turn, because you have a weird dynamic with Rodgers, right? Rodgers' ADP is 124, which puts him in the middle of the round. And yet the main person who wants to draft Aaron Rodgers is always the Garrett Wilson drafter, which is coming from the back end, which then puts, did Dak fall all the way back to me at 105? We're not going to pass on Dak here. That was quite a fall there. So this is how we pivot. Now we double stack Dak. I do not take a lot of Michael Gallup, but now we are ripping into this game. We are taking Dak Prescott. We are double stacking him cheaply via Michael Gallup and Brandon Cooks, and we will bring it back with a Week 17 onslaught, Amon-Ra St. Brown and David Montgomery on the comeback. We are value hounding hard today. Hard. All right, here's the team through 12 rounds. Geno Smith and Dak Prescott at quarterback. Dak's falling to 132. Where's the CD Lamb drafter? So Vincent here from the 11 took Trevor Lawrence and then wanted to take Russell Wilson over Dak. That's a really interesting decision there. I do not see any Denver players on this team take an unstacked Russell Wilson over the quarterback to stack with your first round pick. What's going on? Anyways, this team here, Geno Smith and Dak Prescott at quarterback, running back Joe Mixon, Kenneth Walker, David Montgomery, wide receiver Garrett Wilson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DK Metcalf, Calvin Ridley, Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup, tight end, Pat Freiermuth. This is a fun fucking team. When you start to get this much value in a draft, it feels like you have an extra selection. Like you read the team through 12 rounds and it's like, it feels like you have 13 picks. Yeah, so structurally now, we have a lot of different ways we can go. Because quarterback, we can certainly stop at 2 quarterbacks with this build, Geno and Dak. With tight ends, depending on what we do with our next tight end, we can certainly stop with just 2. Having Mixon and Walker, if I play them like a true double anchor RB build, I have flexibility at running back. And then wide receiver, we're already through 6, including 5 in the top 85 picks. So I really can BPA this down the home stretch here and probably end up just trying to focus on some other correlation. So we got the Dallas-Detroit game. That's big. We got our Seattle-Pittsburgh game. Cincy here, we got Joe Mixon. We can maybe be looking for a Kansas City wide receiver late. There's plenty of those. Garrett Wilson, we could maybe be looking at a Cleveland player late. Jacksonville, there's plenty of Carolina guys late. So I think we have lots of correlation options to fill this team out. Thank you, Vaporware. Please hit the like button. We got 435 people watching right now. Best Ball Summer has finally arrived. Things are picking up. Our road to 15K is going well. We're less than 700 subs away from hitting the 15,000 YouTube sub mark. If you guys are new on the channel, I'm doing a giveaway. When we hit that number, I'm going to give away $500 to 3 winners. And the way you get in that giveaway is by leaving a comment on any of my draft streams. So the second this show's over, including all of the other draft streams I've done, you can go leave a comment on each of those videos and you get an entry for each one of those comments. Let's see what we want to do. Running backs really kind of getting wiped out here a bit. I do think I am for sure, depending on what Vincent does here. And Vincent is a true wild card. I want to take Jerome Ford. I would like a running back in this range. I also get Jerome Ford correlated with Garrett Wilson, slightly ahead of ADP, but I'm picking out the turn, and running backs are really coming off the board here. I'm trying to think, is there any other big correlation things here? One other thing I might do, we could, I don't really like Irv. Someone in the chat mentioning Irv there. The other thing I could do is Laporta and just really play this through Dallas and Detroit. That's interesting. I do think I might want to go Laporta and just really bake it in. I'm up to 15%. I draft Sam Laporta with Sean a ton. I'm trying to see if there's a better pick here. I think that we're in a firm tier gap after Ford down to these other guys here. And we're going to do Sam Laporta here as well. This was kind of the thing I knew was about to happen because I had so much flexibility structure-wise that I did just want to lean into correlation. There were no big ADP values there. And continuing to just bake in as much upside to this roster as possible with Laporta. And I also just like the Detroit lineup. This is also a point, too, where I think I can start looking at maybe some week 16 correlation with some of these teams as well. I think would be helpful. So Dallas plays Miami in week 16. And who does Seattle play in week 16? They play Tennessee. So that's good to know as well. Tennessee and Miami would be good correlation pieces to consider. We now have a 2-4-6-2 build here. Geno Smith and Dak Prescott at quarterback, Joe Mixon, Kenneth Walker, David Montgomery, Jerome Ford at running back. Wide receiver, Garrett Wilson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DK Metcalf, Calvin Ridley, Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup. Tight end, Pat Freiermuth, and Sam Laporta. Sam, you say, can't seem to get into Best Ball Breakfast channel. Tag me in general. I'll push through a sync. Sometimes with the YouTube to Discord sync, it happens like every couple hours, and sometimes I have to push it through manually. So I'll push that through manually for you right now. This is customer service. I'm trying to draft the best team I've drafted in a long time, and I'm over here pushing syncs through on Discord. The sync just went through, and I saw a synced member pop go up one, so you should be good. Try to hop in there now. So we have 4 more picks here, right? And structurally, like I said, I'm certainly getting to 5 running backs, if not 6 in this build. I'm certainly getting to at least a 7th wide receiver. But we have lots of room for luxury picks here. In that I don't think we have to worry about structure too much at this point. We can figure out who are the pieces that make the most sense for this team. Cold brew scared off all the piss boys. They couldn't handle this. I'm about to, after this draft, I got to pour myself another one here. It's too, like, when I have the hot coffee, it's pretty easy to just multitask, pour yourself another cup here and go. But this cold brew setup is so involved that I need to stay focused here. I need to stick this landing. I need to stick this landing. All right. I see you, Bindles. I see you. 1 second.
1 second. I'm trying to make the pick right here. Look. I think the field's not thinking about week 17 correlation enough. That's my honest goddamn opinion. All right? They're not thinking about it enough. And that's why, depending on what Vincent does here, we're going to take Jeff Wilson, because Jeff Wilson plays our Dak Prescott stack in week 17. He sure does.
All right. So we're going to take Jeff Wilson with one of these picks. Is there any other correlation we should be considering here with these picks? Let's take Jeff Wilson. Man, there is not a lot here that I see. I might just take Foreman. I think I might just scoop the value on Foreman and be done here at running back. We have no correlation with Foreman. But on this build, I don't think we really need to take any mega running back flyers. Let's just keep the value hound theme of this draft up, and we'll grab Foreman well past ADP. It will actually be fun. So Dylan, who just submitted to the Best Ball Data Bowl, he actually did a whole submission on the archetypes of late round running backs to target, specifically looking at the differences between ambiguous backfields and like pure handcuffs. And I think me taking Jeff Wilson and Deontay Foreman here, two of the cheapest backs from ambiguous backfields, it will be interesting to discuss with Dylan, because his findings, had an interesting, revealed something interesting about the type of backs to be targeting in these drafts late. So we'll talk to Dylan here in a second when this draft finishes. But we are down to our final 2 picks. Right now, we have a 2-6-6-2 build. Geno Smith, Dak Prescott at quarterback. Our running backs, Joe Mixon, Kenneth Walker, David Montgomery, Jerome Ford, Jeff Wilson, and Deontay Foreman. Our wide receivers, Garrett Wilson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DK Metcalf, Calvin Ridley, Brandon Cooks, and Michael Gallup. Tight end, Pat Freiermuth, and Sam Laporta. So we got some time now to kind of game this out for our final 2 picks here. We're definitely going to be doing a wide receiver. Curtis Samuel falling a bit past ADP. We got our Giants guys that we always love to take. Yeah, sorry. The Jeff Wilson was the week 16. We already took care of our week 17 correlation with Dallas, so we moved on to our week 16 correlation. I think one of these picks is a wide receiver. And then the question is there anything else? I don't think there's a quarterback that makes sense with this build. There's no stacking available. Stroud, Sam Howell, Desmond Ridder, Tannehill. There's nothing here that makes sense. So it could be a third tight end. There's always correlation available. We could just get to the triple stack with Geno if we wanted to tack on Noah Fant here. We see the draft caddy lighting this one up. I'm trying to think, is there any other kind of good correlation tiebreakers I'm missing here? Chicago with Atlanta. We could do like Isaiah Likely with Jeff Wilson if we wanted to. I do kind of like a really big swing for the fences here with this third tight end. I think it could be a likely team. Michael Mayer remains way too cheap, although we don't have any correlation there. I think I'm leaning Likely or Fant right now for the tight end. Nick pushing for Terrace Marshall. He says, smash spot I've ever seen. I'm telling you, the drumbeat has continued. I like Terrace Marshall. I will just also say the drumbeat has been there for Terrace Marshall every year. He seems to be a guy that is very good at getting people to play the drums in preseason. Did someone take Richie James? I do like getting correlation, though. So I was going to take a Chiefs wide receiver, but James is gone, right? Someone took Richie James, yeah. It would have been nice to get a Chiefs wide receiver there to correlate with Mixon. But I think Terrace Marshall correlating with Calvin Ridley makes sense. And Nick already told me he's going to refund me my entry on this team if Terrace Marshall doesn't hit. Let's get some votes. Quick. Likely or Fant? Likely or Fant? Quick. I think I'm going to lean Likely here. Chad also mentioning Conklin. Should we just value hound this? I completely didn't even see Conklin on the board. Let's do Conklin. We're going to stack up the Jets without Rodgers. I completely was blind to Conklin there. Sorry, I rugged you guys on the poll. Who said Conklin? I didn't even see him until someone brought him up. Wow, the chat, you guys are voting like mad. Thank you guys. I'll give you stickers. I voted. Everyone says Likely or Fant, and then I took Conklin. Sorry, I had to continue the value hound here. But it is one thing that I do like doing there is, and I guess you could say it would have been the same for like the Baltimore thing, although it's a little less likely. It would have just been a mini correlation where I did Likely with Wilson. But what I like here is that I have a big week 17 stack with the Seahawks. I'm just realizing how I have the crop on this as you couldn't see my my value here. That's my bad. Someone has mentioned that before. So there, now you can see where the pick was. The point I was trying to make is I basically have now built out access to a third game stack without the quarterback. So I have the Seattle game stack with Geno, Kenneth Walker, and DK Metcalf with Freiermuth coming back. Then I have the big Dallas-Detroit game stack with Dak Prescott, David Montgomery, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup, and Sam Laporta. And then we also get the Garrett Wilson and Tyler Conklin without Rodgers, but the bring back on Jerome Ford. So basically just a way to get that third game stack with not needing the third quarterback there. So let's recap this team. I do really like how this one shook out. 2, 6, 7, 3. I mean, the only thing was like, I kind of wanted to get a Chiefs wide receiver. I had mentally been circling Richie James. Who took Richie James from me? 4th, and Fitz took Richie James from me just a few picks ahead. Makes sense though. 4th and Fitz here onslaughting a big Patrick Mahomes stack. But here's the team. 2, 6, 7, 3. Geno Smith and Dak Prescott. Running backs, Joe Mixon, Kenneth Walker, David Montgomery, Jerome Ford, Jeff Wilson, and Deontay Foreman. Wide receivers, Garrett Wilson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DK Metcalf, Calvin Ridley, Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup, Terrace Marshall. Tight ends, Pat Freiermuth, Sam Laporta, and Tyler Conklin. This is a nice team. You know what? I'm willing to be hard on myself. I'm willing to say when I thought a draft was hard, when I think I didn't do a good job drafting, when I drafted a gross team, I think this is a good team. I do objectively think this is a good team. Let's get this one in the books here. Draft number 88, lucky number 88 here. Still the most aesthetically pleasing wide receiver number you can wear. Number 88, the best. Best ball breakfast. We got a 2673 here, and Seattle, Dallas, and we even got rooms for NJ. We're going to call that the New York Jets there. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Tommy Stacks likes the team. Alan Lazard is the tight end 1. Nick is saying if Marshall is trash, I'm going to have a bad year, but I'll cover you $25 if he doesn't finish as a top 50 wide receiver. All right. Handshake emoji, Nick. Let's see here. Easy. If you guys saw that, it was my draft number 75. I drafted with Easy. We used his correlation spreadsheet. So getting the correlation stamp of approval from the correlation spreadsheet Virgin King himself, Easy, is always nice to see. Tyler says this team fucks. Wow, the chat. Now I'm worried because the chat likes my teams. The chat likes my teams. Are we getting another BBM? Of course we're getting another BBM. But first, we got a guest to come on. I've been mentioning that Dylan Stone recently submitted to the Best Ball Data Bowl here, had a very interesting piece that we're going to pull up. Dylan, welcome to Best Ball Breakfast.
Thanks for having me on, Pete. It's a pleasure.
Yeah,
I got my I ran out of coffee today, so I got my tea. It's kind of the Odell Beckham of morning drinks, but we'll take it.
Oh my god. You're a tea person because I had posted yesterday on Twitter that I was going to cold brew today, and Tom, our British best ball friend over there, he said, "Why don't you just drink tea?" Which was like the most British thing ever, to tell an American to stop drinking coffee and drink tea.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of tea, but sometimes when you run out of the coffee, you got to do what you got to do.
So what we're going to do here is I did want to check in with you about this Best Ball Data Bowl submission. This one just came in last night. I already got to read through it. Very interesting stuff. But why don't you, before we dive into the submission itself, maybe introduce yourself? I know nothing about you. This is the first time I met you. I saw you submitted. I said, come on the show. So tell me a little bit about your background. Is this your first time kind of doing data analytics? I'm curious.
Yeah, so I'm 22 years old. Just graduated college about 6 months ago from UT in Austin. Currently work at Fanatic Sportsbook. I don't really have much experience with code, to be honest. I have a little bit from college. Took like one class. I would say I'm definitely introductory level. And like this project, I think really enhanced my ability to do code. And I think just knowing some of the tools that are out there right now, it's like you really only need to know the basics. And I would say like ChatGPT, there's W3 schools. There's a lot of different tools you can go at it from. And I'd recommend anyone who's watching right now to really try to get their hands dirty and try to get after it.
The chat, you guys are just, look, when we have people who have never been on stream before, they're coming here to talk to us about, you guys are just going to have to deal with non-perfect setups. Okay. Just everyone relax. Dylan, is this your first best ball stream?
Oh yeah, this is definitely my first best ball stream. Apologies for the lighting. It does look like the sun is behind me right now. It's I'm in Texas,
right,
so
glowing.
It's only right that we get the hot sun behind me.
So I'm going to pull this up in a sec, but why don't you set the stage for the project you tackled? What got you thinking about this in the first place?
Yeah, I think when I first started drafting best ball, it's like you draft your hero RB, you draft your one running back, and you're like, well, now what do I do? Can I wait till way later to get my running back? Do I need to get him? Do I need to get that guy in the sixth or fifth round in the dead zone? Should I was kind of clueless, to be honest. And my first heuristic was kind of like attacking it like, all right, if I get 2 early running backs and go that hyper fragile build, like let me wait a while. Like let me wait till the back end of the draft and maybe get 3 of them and just call it quits. But I think, and what I guess you're about to show the research in a second, but it really showed that the importance of your 3rd and 4th running back was massive in these past 2 years. I mean, you really needed points out of those guys. I think a lot of it has to do with not only those 2 RB slots that you have to fill, but the flex slot a lot is often filled with the running back.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned that. I mean, last year, Pat on his winning team, it was really the 3rd running back. Obviously, Austin Eckler went off in week 17, but it was the Ramondre Stevenson pick, which was his 3rd running back. He absolutely smashed his ADP. So the title of your piece here was a first look into layering, analyzing when and who to take as backup running backs. And I know some of this stuff is pretty granular, but can you give a high level of like, what was your methodology? How did you approach attacking this problem?
Yeah, so I mean, the first step right there, the closing line ADP, I think it's always important to try to like get a source of truth when you're looking at ADP numbers, and the best source of truth is near the end. And I do think it's a little difficult to use some of this research because you have to kind of visualize where you think some of these guys are going to end in ADP. But I do think having a source of truth for ADP was pretty important. And so I gathered all the teams from the last week before the Best Ball Mania closed, and then that next one is just basically creating a subset where I compared all teams to playoff teams to top 1% teams. And I think the top 1% teams is, as we know, very important this year with Best Ball Mania 4 offering a prize pool to the regular season. This ADP difference is kind of how I deciphered the backup and starter position from the committee situation. And it comes from research from Charles Klein. I don't want to butcher that name, but he's from RotoViz. And
Yeah.
he basically said if your ADP difference was above 97.5, then you could categorize that as the starter backup situation, and under that was essentially a committee situation. So it really helped me kind of create archetypes. And some of this research also comes after Jack Miller, who did a piece for Establish the Run a couple years back on looking at some of this best ball data and creating archetypes. So I kind of did model a lot of that after him. But yeah, so if you go down to my archetypes, and I used, so the archetypes is just like basically your archetype 1 was your bell cow guy, your 2 was your guy who was basically the lead, the guy who got drafted first in your committee, 3 was the guy who got second drafted in the committee, and you go down from there. Kind of 4 and 5 are kind of your backup guys, and 6 and 7 are kind of your committee guys who are like 3rd, 4th string guys in those pools. And then basically what my data showed is I think the ADP stuff was interesting, like where these guys kind of got drafted, kind of give you kind of like guardrails around like, all right, like let's not go crazy and start drafting our zero RB teams like pretty early. It's like if you're gonna wait, you should wait, and if you're gonna go for it, I think the one that was really interesting was the Hyperfragile. It's like you would think that you could wait a little bit longer, but you really couldn't. It's like getting these 2, and I think it's because some of these teams stopped at 4, but if you got 3 or 4 really powerful running backs, your team really ended up doing very well these past 2 years. And it's like, I think this year especially, one way this translates is like that kind of pool after Bateman. It's like if you go Hyperfragile, I really think taking 2 of those guys between Javonte, Samaje Perine, you got your Damian Harris, like really taking 2 of those guys, I think could really be a dominant strategy this year that I see coming out of this project.
Yeah. So talk a little bit, because it seemed like the way that you kind of stuck the landing with your research was trying to compare this idea between almost like true handcuff backs, guys that aren't going to have a huge standalone role. I think a rookie like Tajay Spears would be a good example. You mentioned a guy like Eli Mitchell, who might have like a little standalone role. Jerome Ford, Jalen Warren, these guys, versus the true ambiguous situations, which I've been hammering this year, talking about, hey, the Dolphins, the Saints, and the Bears, no one knows who's going to be the lead back, and they're all cheap. So what was kind of your big takeaway looking at those 2 archetypes of backs?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely did seem, and you can see a little bit that like the guys who had a little role as a backup were better than the guys who had no role. But like still, you were much better off taking these guys in these ambiguous backfields, whether they were a 2 or a 3. Both of those guys seem to do very well as it pertained to like top 1% teams. I mean, I think the one main conclusion that I drew from all of this research was that the archetype of 3, meaning the guy who got drafted second in that kind of committee backfield, was really dominant throughout your top 1% teams and your playoff teams. And the mean would constantly come down. So like as you had all teams, basically the archetype mean number was like, let's say 4, and it would come down to 3.5, which would mean that like you would like some of those teams that drafted those 4 and 5 guys just didn't make the cut of those playoff and top 1% teams. And you really needed more of these 3 guys and these 2 guys. And I think for 2021, it seemed like the 2 guy was a little bit more valuable. And I think this has to do with a little bit less efficiency in the market. But I do think that in general, that like attacking either and kind of mixing in both, I think is kind of what I recommended, is like Definitely, I think we always try to say like attack the later guy, but I do think mixing in both is probably the preferable strategy.
Yeah, because I think the thing that I would get tripped up on is the reason I think your research intuitively makes sense to me. And it kind of dovetails with Leone's research about avoiding dead roster spots. And if you're taking true handcuff running backs, those guys can often be a dead roster spot because they might just get a 0 and they just might not even be on the field because they need an injury to get on the field. However, we've also seen certain players have just massive advance rates at specific portions of the tournament as true handcuffs. Everyone knows about Alexander Madison over the years. We even had a couple years ago where Justin Jackson showed up in 1 week and just went for 30 points the week Eckler was out. So you do see these like massive windfalls, but it's much, much harder to nail those true handcuffs. And it sounds like your research is pushing you toward let's avoid those roster spots. Let's avoid that uncertainty and really benefit from more ambiguous backfields where you have multiple paths to being correct.
Yeah, I think what you're mentioning is a good point. And I think I only really looked at regular season data. So like mostly advanced rates and creating these top 1% teams. But like you said, and something that I always try to fight is like, it's hard because some of these guys who like, it's the guy you need in week 17, you know? So it's like, it is a very tough battle. And I think oftentimes I find myself overstacking because it's like, you know, this stack may not be the thing that advances me the most, but it ends up being the one that matters in week 17. So I do definitely see that argument a lot. But I think in general, just taking some of these, like you said, dead roster spots, just, it seems like dead roster spots are terrible. And like, especially because some of these guys, and you don't even realize it a lot when you're drafting, but like a lot of these running backs can really show up in the flex spot. And like, even if you draft 2 really good running backs, it's like that third running back, if he shows up in the flex spot 10 out of the 6 or 10 out of the 16 weeks or whatever the case may be, it's like, that's a big deal. So I think that's mostly what my research is kind of aligning to here.
Awesome. Well, one thing that's super cool about how the Best Ball Dateable is configured too is you guys can go look at all of the submissions. It's all a public repository here on GitHub. So if you go to, the best place to go is if you just search Best Ball Dateable. I got the link down below. And then you hop into the GitHub here, and then you can go into the submissions and you can go read through Dylan's full thing. There's a couple other submissions in here. And as a reminder, there's a cash prize for whoever wins this. Submissions are closing here by the end of the month. You also get a Best Ball Dateable shirt. Dylan, I'm going to email you later today, so you get your free Best Ball Dateable shirt. But it's really cool. You can go in here and go through and read these things. And the whole thing that's awesome about this is you show your work. You literally show your work from the top down level. And if you've been on the fence about submitting, I do think reading through these will give you a really good idea of how to approach it. Dylan, do you have any other kind of advice? Obviously, you want to win. You don't want to help your competitors too much here, but any advice for people looking to tackle a data project?
Yeah, I would just say go for it. I mean, I think it seems daunting and it seems like a big task, but in all actuality, there's a lot of tools out there now. I mean, you can ask ChatGPT if you get stuck, a syntax error, XYZ. I think if you ever get stuck, I really wouldn't be worried. There's more tools out there than ever, and I would just really go for it.
Yep. Submissions are due by the end of the month, Chris, and all of the competition details can be found here. I have the link down below for the Best Ball Dateable. If you also go to Fantasy Data Pros, you can get, there's a link up there. And as a reminder, as Nick posted here, you guys can always get 25% off the Fantasy Data Pros Python course for fantasy football with promo code Pete. This will give you the skills to be able to tackle projects like this that Dylan was able to take here. So still plenty of time to get going. Dylan, I appreciate you hopping on and sharing your findings with us.
Thanks for having me on, Pete. It's a pleasure.
All right, Dylan, we'll catch you later. And next time, the chat expects you to have a ring light and a full streaming setup for video.
I will get that fixed for next time. Have a good one, Pete.
All right, man. We'll see you. All right. Shout out to Dylan. Have really been enjoying seeing these submissions come through. As I've offered before, if you guys are thinking about submitting something or you would like my feedback on whether a topic would make a good submission, feel free to hit me up in Twitter DMs, Discord DMs. I'd be happy to review your submission and make sure that you guys are going down the right path, giving yourself a chance to win. It's time to do some housekeeping here as we get ready for this next draft. I need to get more cold brew. I need to feed the ducks. I need to get a banner up. Let's go one by one here. So next up, we're going to have draft 89. We know that to be the case. We need to feed the ducks. This is the second draft here. It's time to feed the ducks. There they are. Okay. And now we need to pour some coffee. We need to pour some coffee is what we need to do. Shit, this is the downside of it, is my ice is running low, but I do think I have enough cold water to make this doable here. I need to get my stirrer out. There's that. Now we need some more water. And now a little stirring here. All right, here we go. All right, I think we're finally all set here for draft number 89. I did hop in. I tipped people off in the Discord here, and it once again snap filled. Let's see. Let's get my draft board up on the screen. We are picking from the 1-5 for this draft. So still not getting close to the top of the board, but we will take it. And we're back. We're back. Do I recognize any friends and family in here? Baby Stevie, Austin, Nate Knox, Brendan, OMG, MJ. All right, the 1-5 here. I think I am going to take not Austin Eckler. I'm going to take Christian McCaffrey here. We do see this as kind of a traditional top four. Jefferson, Chase, Kupp, Hill. We'll keep grabbing Christian McCaffrey. I think there's sometimes in these crazy piss boy rooms where I get a little panic, but I can't take Diggs and AJ Brown over McCaffrey. I can't bring myself to do it. So we'll start with a classic anchor here with Christian McCaffrey and go from there. Matt learning how the world works. Matt, have a seat, Matt. Are you sitting down? I want to tell you something about ice. So it starts in one state as a solid, and then it tends to move toward a liquid. And I know this is hard to hear. We want all things in life to offer permanence and stability. But ice is not one of those things. And I do think you're old enough to know that ice cubes melt. I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry to break that news to you. OG bringing the energy here. What's up? Let's win that 3 million with Pete. Amen. From your lips to God's ears. It's all right. I mean, look, like I sometimes take for granted, sometimes we talk about week 17 correlations around here and people are like, wait, what? Why are you correlating week 17? Sometimes people are like, ice melts, and you got to explain it to them. Some people don't know. Matt will learn though. If there's any other things you want to talk about, we could talk about buoyancy, condensation. I'm willing to teach. When I sauce a team in the Best Ball Breakfast channel, what's it called? The caramel drizzle? I don't know. The sauce is supposed to be flaming, roasting. A caramel drizzle sounds too polite. Although I am pretty polite in the Best Ball Breakfast channel. If you ask me to review your roster, I'm not going to call you a fucking idiot. All right. What do we got here? Man. I don't know if I have any CMC Tony Pollard. I feel like that just feels fun. We're starting to get a little cocky of these piss boy ribs, or these quasi piss boy rooms. We're like, just take a couple running backs. This is bad promotion for my I love wide receiver shirt. Although I did start the last draft with 4 straight wide receivers, so I get some credit there. High T start, not scared. Well, it does go back to that thing that talking about where you sometimes go on autopilot mode, and I'm like, I'll just take Devonta Smith, because I always just take Devonta Smith because I'm not going to like the wide receivers available in the 3rd round. I do want to go to the Best Ball Hub on Fantasy Life and see if I have any CMC Pollard yet. Maybe I will. Well, one thing that's super interesting about this year, as Kevin says, get an RB in the 3rd, really get weird, is like 2 of the most talked about structures historically, true hyperfragile, taking 3 running backs within the first 4 rounds and then maybe taking 4 max, and true 0 RB. They still, when you actually look at these boards, they're underutilized. You rarely see people doing true hyperfragile. You rarely see people doing true 0 RB where they really wait, because a lot of times because of the 3rd round, where there's so many other detours away from traditional structures, because you're trying to capitalize on the value pockets of the draft board. So I do think it's interesting to do really true 0 RB, and that's what we're going to do here. We're going to rip it in. Let's go hyperfragile. Let's get some high T here. Get rid of the I love wide receivers merch. We're going to start it. Christian McCaffrey, Tony Pollard, Ramondre Stevenson. Bang, bang, bang. I did want to go look here and see, first of all, how many Pollard McCaffrey teams I had, if any. Let's see here. Pull this up real quick. 0 Pollard McCaffrey teams. 0. So that was our first Pollard McCaffrey. My guess is I have a couple McCaffrey Ramondre. Because Ramondre's always been a little cheaper, so it's been easier to do like McCaffrey, grab a wide receiver in the 2nd, and then come back and get Ramondre in the 3rd. Go for, right? Oh, I'm definitely going for running backs. Wow, I don't have any McCaffrey Ramondre. There it is. You guys can always go check the combinations on your players in your portfolio via the Best Ball Hub on Fantasy Life, fantasylife.com. From the tools drop down, you go to the Best Ball Hub. You just upload your CSV from Underdog, and then you can type in any various combo. You can also see which week 15 stacks you have with your players. You can see here I have all these week 17 commander stacks, and it's completely free on Fantasy Life if you want to review your portfolio in real time and check out those combos. But yes, I don't envision us taking more than 4 running backs today. The chat thinks I'm being held hostage. Peter Eagles. Ross says I'm copying him. I did a very similar start. CMC Pollard Henry. Shit. I'm copying. I'm trying to see here. Otherwise, this room feels pretty normal. I haven't seen any crazy ADP reaches. I guess Metcalf going at 24. We are on the clock here. Man, I do not like taking, I've not been taking, you know what? Do we go Hopkins? Hopkins in the mid 4th feels about right. I think I prefer Hopkins to Williams. I need to think that through. I've just not been high on Williams. His price is fine, but I prefer the other sides of it. I prefer Keenan and Quentin Johnston. So I haven't ended up with much Mike Williams. The other thing that I'm going to start to think through with this build, right, is when you have a hyperfragile build, we're going to need to smash wide receivers over these next few rounds, which means we're not going to be able to take detours for any of like the mid-range quarterbacks. And so it does help if you're making wide receiver selections in hyperfragile builds that do leave you out toward late round quarterback selection. So obviously with Hopkins, Tannehill becomes a quarterback that I could do as part of a 3 quarterback build late. Robert says 440 people watching this and only 118 likes. It's a travesty. It's an absolute travesty. Please, please hit the like button. The future of this channel depends upon it. All right. I'm just seeing if there's any correlation stuff or if we just keep taking the best wide receiver. Let's get these. The one thing, I guess, yeah, I'm gonna take Godwin. I like Godwin. I was thinking, one thing about hyperfragile builds is, you're getting a ton of good projectable volume early. So I think in some way it frees you up to maybe be a little bit more aggressive with your wide receiver targets. Just knowing that you should have a ton of built-in production early. Someone like Godwin, I think I feel pretty good about his role, but I also don't know how big the range of outcomes is for him this year. Maybe it's pretty big. Maybe I'm discounting his upside. But the point was, I was like, say if you take a guy like Jameson Williams or you're taking rookie wide receivers on a build like this, I think you're less likely to get buried early just because you're getting so much built-in projectable volume from the running back spot. I need to think that through a little bit more, but I think Godwin was the pick there. The problem with the Godwin thing, though, is it doesn't give me an out to a quarterback, because I had talked about this with Sean on Wednesday, which, by the way, if you're new, so for my best ball streaming schedule, I do 2 drafts on Mondays, best ball breakfast. On Tuesday, we do 2 drafts on Splash Play, 1 draft on my channel, then we head over to the Splash Play channel. And then on Wednesdays, I do best ball breakfast with 2 guests. The first draft is with the Best Ball Mania 3 champ, Pat Kerrane. And then the second draft is with RotoViz's Sean Siegel. And also, that reminds me, tomorrow, July 18th, is the day that Kerrane and King Capital each drafted their teams last year, where they won $1 million. Pat, of course, winning Best Ball Mania 3 in week 17. King Cap won the regular season top prize. And Pat is hosting a mega best ball stream. I think it's like 7 hours tomorrow. I'm going to be hopping on in the afternoon with Ben Gretch and Leone to draft a team with Pat. We actually haven't discussed if that's going to be one on my account or if that's going to be one of Pat's BBM bullets. We'll figure that out, but be sure to check out Pat's YouTube legendary upside for that mega stream tomorrow. It has a ton of fun guests from across the industry to celebrate the anniversary of drafting his $2 million team. Let's see here. I might have to set up. Yeah, let's do it. Let's set up the Tanny double. Sounds like a good time, right? We draft Treylon Burks. So we have no quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 3 wide receivers, Christian McCaffrey, Tony Pollard, Ramondre Stevenson. At running back, our wide receivers, DeAndre Hopkins, Chris Godwin, Treylon Burks. Jahan Dotson does go right after us. I think we could have certainly justified taking Jahan Dotson as a little week 17 correlation with McCaffrey. But maybe I should have taken Dotson. Maybe that was a mistake. Burks, his ADP is at 70. It seems like some people in the market think he should fall. I don't think he should fall that much, but I guess if one player was going to come back, maybe it's Burks. But you see how these picks come off the board: Dotson, Tony, Gabe, Pickens. I don't think Burks was coming back. So I don't know. I decided to get the Tanny double. Dallas Goedert available, DeAndre Swift, Trevor Lawrence. We do get Quentin Johnston here, which is very nice, especially after I passed on Mike Williams. Yeah, I think I don't think it was a mistake in this room because there was no way he was coming after Dotson, Tony, Gabe, and Pickens all get off. But I'm happy to get Quentin Johnston there. I like getting Quentin Johnston at cost way more than I like Mike Williams. And so when I was deciding between Hopkins and Williams, going Hopkins there and then getting Quentin Johnston as a way to kind of compound that fade against Mike Williams feels good. And we are now catching up at wide receiver a bit after this 3 running back start. Christian McCaffrey, Tony Pollard, Ramondre Stevenson, the rare hyperfragile build for me. Wide receiver, DeAndre Hopkins, Godwin, Treylon Burks, Quentin Johnston. Will Karane's stream be live from Paris? I wouldn't be surprised, man. Wouldn't be surprised. If Pat doesn't wear a beret or have a loaf, I'll riot. Yeah, seriously. I should pass that note along to Pat. Pat should definitely be wearing a beret for this stream. He should also just have a bunch of like $100 bills just stacked up behind him for the stream. S. Cruz says, I've been for a while snatching up Purdy for stacking purposes. Just noticed Trey Lance is projected as if he's the starter. Do I trust this? No, you do not. I don't know what depth chart you're looking at. The Trey Lance dream is dead. A lot of us, maybe even some people in this room, held on to that dream for a little longer than they should, but we have wised up. And in the same way that the San Francisco 49ers don't want anything to do with Trey Lance, neither should we in Fantasy Nation. Barbie, Oppenheimer, and Barbenheimer. People are starting to get Barbie fever, huh? I've only seen one movie in the theaters since the pandemic. I saw Top Gun last summer in the theater. Maybe I'll go to the theater to see. Damn it! I was hoping Zay Flowers would fall. Damn it! And Jameson Williams already went. I guess we'll just do Sutton. We'll do Sutton. We got a little week 17 correlation there with Quentin Johnston. I think, Pat and Leone have been in my ear a little bit lately about Sutton and Gretsch too, relative to Judy's price, and that the ADP gap between these two guys probably isn't fully justified right now. You got Jerry Jeudy going in the early 4th and Courtland Sutton now going in the late 8th, early 9th round. And the fact that I am in on the Broncos this year. I'm in on about Broncos bounce back. I'm excited about what Sean Payton is going to bring for this team. And I do have a lot of Jeudy too. If I look at my shares of Jeudy, I'm at 10.5%. So I think I'm playing this decently from a portfolio. I'm even on Jeudy and Sutton right now. I like Jeudy more, but he's also way more expensive. And so I think, tilting some of my exposure, I obviously still have a ton of Marvin Mims, 16%. I even have a decent amount of Tim Patrick, 9%. So I'm basically playing this Broncos offense pretty evenly throughout the draft board. 12.8% Greg Dulcich. Also have a ton of Javonte, 14%. Have a lot of Pirine, 11.6%. So this seems like a spot to take Sutton. I definitely needed a wide receiver in this build. And now we'll have to... Sutton also gives me access to another. You know what we're going to do? This is what we're going to do. We're going to take fucking Javonte Williams and be done at running back. Now, a lot of times I don't like doing this because it just means I'm literally not going to select another running back for the rest of the draft. But Javonte is like the perfect running back that I want to take in a hyperfragile build. So Javonte slides 10 picks past ADP. I've already been building out a bit of a Denver Chargers week 17 stack with Johnston and Sutton. And if a guy is ever getting in my lineup and this team is good, that running back needs to have top 5 upside to be able to do that. And so with these guys, McCaffrey, Pollard, Ramondre, I have a ton of flexibility to wait for Javonte to get up to speed. And then you're playing for the scenario where he's back to his form. He's back to his form. We can agree whether that's possible or not with coming back from this injury. But structurally and player archetype wise, I love Javonte with a hyper fragile build. Trust me, guys. I watched the Broncos last year too. They were awful. Trust me, I know. But I do really think it is hard to untangle who deserves more blame, Russell Wilson or Nathaniel Hackett. Both were awful. I would argue Nathaniel Hackett was more awful than even Russ. And I think with Sean Payton there, that upgrade is going to be so massive for the team across the board. I mean, Nathaniel Hackett was just a true stone cold disaster. That I am putting a significant amount of weight into him turning things around. The other thing is the prices are much different this year. I mean, the price on Judy isn't different. Judy was going where he was last year, but Sutton and Judy were going. At one point, weren't they both going in the 3rd round together? They were at least going at the 3-4 turn. Russell Wilson was what? A 6th, 7th round pick. The uncertainty and them bottoming out last year is reflected in their prices. All right, let's see here. We're going to definitely I could take Freiermuth here as well, but man, I do like Dobbs. You guys have seen me take Dobbs in the top 100 and on a team where I actually need to catch up at wide receiver. Maybe passing on the Freiermuth faller there was bad, but this is my thing. I draft so much Pittsburgh and Seattle stacks, and I don't have anything going in this one. And Dobbs does represent a little bit of a mini tier here for me at wide receiver once you get down to these Darnell Mooney, Jacoby Myers types. And I will save my Freiermuth shares for when I'm building out Seattle and Pittsburgh stacks. So we're up to 6 wide receivers and 4 running backs. We are done at running back. I have X'd it out for the audio listeners. Running back is not even visible on my screen. I will not be tempted. We have Christian McCaffrey, Tony Pollard, Ramondre Stevenson, and Javonte Williams. Good running backs, I'd say. Very good. Wide receiver here, we have DeAndre Hopkins, Chris Godwin, Treylon Burks, Quentin Johnston, Courtland Sutton, and Romeo Dobbs. Should we do you onslaught the Titans with Chig? Let's see here. We're making a pretty big bet on Denver. I don't want to triple stack the Titans there. I'm going to take Greg Dulcich. So we grab our first tight end here, still 0 quarterbacks, 4 running backs, 6 wide receivers, 1 tight end. CMC, Pollard, Ramondre, Javonte, DeAndre, Godwin, Burks, Quentin Johnston, Courtland Sutton, Romeo Dobbs. The other reason for the pick with Dobbs is giving myself some more outs for quarterback. I saw Easy screaming Nico. Nico would have definitely given me a path to Stroud if I wanted to do that. Man, I have not been taking much Stroud. Not that I have to take Stroud, but yeah, 1.2%. Wait a second. The Titans play Houston twice in the fantasy playoffs? Wait, the big dog? Derrick Henry gets the Texans defense twice in the fantasy playoffs? I would have taken the big dog 101 if I knew that. I took Tony Pollard over Derrick Henry, and the Titans play the Texans twice? God. I should look at a schedule for once in my life before I draft. What am I doing? Titans are good in the playoffs. In Mike Vrabel, we trust. I was going to be forced to take Chig if he fell all the way to 140, though. Oh. All right. This worked out well. I wanted to make sure that we got Russell Wilson back here. So we're going to get our first quarterback. We now have Russell Wilson, big bet on Denver here. Russell Wilson, Javonte Williams, Courtland Sutton, and Greg Dulcich with Quentin Johnston on the bring back. I think we are on track here. If I missed out on Russ, that would have made things a little scrambly as far as making sure we were getting correlation in. I could have pieced it together. With some back stuff, but the Russell Wilson feels much, much better on a team where I've made such big bets on Denver. Vaporware bringing the stats. Since 2018, the Titans have averaged 26 to 31 pass attempts per game. Not great. Where do they land in 2023? I think you could also argue, right, that this is the best wide receiver duo that they've had through this entire Tannehill era. And Chig ain't no slouch either. Obviously, they're still going to be a ground and pound team, but I do think you can make the case that they might open it up a little bit more now that they have some legitimate receiving weapons. Let's see here. What do we want to do? I do like Alec Pierce. You know what? Actually, let's rip it in. Similar to how we built out that mega stack last game with Dallas and Detroit, I've been wanting to get some more Chargers pieces. I feel like Dulcich and Gerald Everett is a fun tight end room there. Let's go ahead and grab Everett. We will play for a Broncos-Chargers shootout in Week 17. Anthony crunching the numbers. 150 likes with 450 plus people watching. Come on, peeps. Corey Davis, AJ Brown. It all comes down to what form Deandre's in. If Deandre hasn't lost a step, give me Deandre and Treylon Burks over Corey Davis and AJ Brown. Corey Davis was a jag. He was fine, but Kyle says Tannehill had 25.5 points per game in 2020. I think top 12 QB is reasonable. I mean, that top 12 is definitely the ceiling outcome, but I agree with you that that is possible. I mean, the real mistake is just the Titans letting go of AJ Brown in the first place, but water under a bridge. Tyler wants me to say fuck you to the chat. Fuck you, chat. There you go, Tyler. Just for you. All right, so let's try to plot out our end game here a little bit. We got one quarterback, two tight ends. We're done at running back here with CMC, Pollard, Ramondre, and Javonte. Wide receiver, I feel like we've recovered decently, but I'm still going to keep hammering wide receivers here. As far as my quarterback stuff, definitely want Tanny in the back pocket. Want to think through some Houston stuff, although I am running out of Houston options for correlation there with Tennessee. Welcome, Time Skull. Becoming a YouTube member. Appreciate that. Let's see here. What do we want to do? I think I have an idea. Let me look at the board here. You know what we're going to do? I think we might try to push it. Just checking something here. Yeah, let's try this. Let's try to push it with Love. I'm going to take Reed here. My thought was there's a chance that because the Christian Watson drafter was behind me on this side of the board, and if I miss out on Jordan Love, I still have the stack and I still can get Tannehill and piece together a third late quarterback if I so desired. Is this real? It says I drafted a third place team on 7/18. Did you finish third place in the week 17 finals or third place in the regular season? That is insane if you drafted a team on July 18th as well. Oh my God, you're right. This is shaping up to be a Robert Woods team. Mother of God. I think you're right. I think this might be the time I get a Robert Woods share. Oh. That's crazy. This July 18th shit, man. That's some freaky shit. That's some freaky shit, man. I don't think we're going to be able to get a Minnesota bring back. So Jordan Love does fall. I like how I played that. So we get the Jordan Love double with Reed and Dobbs. I don't know if we're going to be able to do anything with Minnie, though. Unless I took a fifth running back, which just seems completely unnecessary. So we have 3 more picks here. Our team now through 15 rounds. We got Russell Wilson and Jordan Love at quarterback. Running backs, Christian McCaffrey, Tony Pollard, Ramondre Stevenson, Javonte Williams. Wide receiver, DeAndre Hopkins, Chris Godwin, Treylon Burks, Quentin Johnston, Courtland Sutton, Romeo Dobbs, Jaden Reed. Tight end, Greg Dulcich, and Gerald Everett. Structurally here, I think I would like to get to 9 wide receivers. I'm definitely getting to 8. I think then the question is, if we get to 8 wide receivers and we draft Tannehill, I guess that it's basically, do we go to 9 wide receivers and 2 tight ends, or do we go to 8 wide receivers and 3 tight ends? Scorpion McScorp says I'm drawn dead with those wide receivers. Pack it in, guys. Shut it down. Drawn dead. Try next time. The guy who says he loves wide receivers is drawn dead. Where are we at? What are people doing with John Mechie? Are you guys taking John Mechie? This is the debate, Mechie versus Bobby Woods. I wish I had a strong take on it. I wish I did. I wish I could look here in the camera, pound the table, and rattle off some advanced stats for you. There's good people on both sides of the John Mechie and Robert Woods holy war. Mechie went in the 3rd round. Did that really happen? Holy cow, you're right. I guess that argument settled for today. I guess that's settled. Let's see here. What do we want to do? Man, Purdy falling as well. We could take Dawson Knox as like our 3rd tight end here. Did someone really take Robert Woods already? First of all, I'm just going to put Tannehill in the queue so I can just... Did someone really take Woods? Someone already took Robert Woods. You guys are sick. This guy, are you watching this stream? We're just taking Tannehill, and then we'll figure the rest out later because all of these guys are total dart throws. Well, I need to go look at this. What did this person do here? Daniel Jones, Dak Prescott. Do you have any reason for taking both Mechie? This guy's just doing a bit. Val, are you watching this stream right now? There's no other reason to take John Mechie 30 picks ahead of ADP and Robert Woods other than, here's the thing. Sometimes there is snipe bit equity. I promise you, sniping me on dusty Texans wide receivers is there's no bit equity there. I can't even get upset about it for you. Let's have some fun figuring out some wide receivers here. Yeah, honestly, Tank Dell wouldn't be bad, right? Tank is probably actually the play if we're doing a Texans wide receiver. Is there any other correlation stuff I should think through? So San Francisco Commanders, Curtis Samuel's gone. Pollard, I'm not taking Khalif Raymond or you know what I think we should do here? Is Dawson Knox still here? Yeah, we're going to take Dawson Knox. So we get Dawson Knox correlated with New England in week 17 with Ramondre and with Quentin Johnston and Gerald Everett. And I just really don't like these wide receiver options here. I don't really want to take two of these guys. So let's do Dawson Knox. We get the value hound. We get the correlation with both Ramondre and the Chargers. And then we'll take one more wide receiver here to get to 8. And we'll end up with a 3-4-8-3 build. Deandre Hopkins, Chris Godwin, Treylon Burks, Quentin Johnston, Courtland Sutton, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed. Can you win with that crew? Can you win? Pretty polarized, right? We got 3 veterans, Hopkins, Godwin, and Sutton. We got a couple second-year wide receivers, Treylon Burks, Romeo Doubs, and then 2 rookies, Quentin Johnston and Jaden Reed. JGFC liking it. Yeah, Brett says Knox is so underpriced. It is really weird. I'm always like surprised because I don't do a ton of Josh Allen, but I'm always confused why the Josh Allen drafter isn't taking. So like Baby Stevie here takes Josh Allen in the 27th overall, does take TJ Hawkinson, but still no other tight ends, passing on Dawson Knox here at 195, not taking, I guess he took Dalton Schultz, but man, it's still so hard for me. If I have Josh Allen, like Dawson Knox becomes such a priority at these prices. Baby Stevie in the chat defending his decision. I have a bunch of Knox Allen combos. All right. Touche. That's our generations. You know how we used to be able to defend any pick that we took? We just say, oh, it's he's better in best ball, or he's got the ceiling. It used to be how you could get out. Now you just use your portfolio as an excuse. I do this all the time too. It's like, oh, why didn't you take them? Oh, I got a bunch of him in other drafts. I have a bunch of this guy. now you can just say, oh, I take him in all my other drafts except this one. All right, let's do Tank Dell here. We'll do Tank Dell. We'll get this bring back. I don't see, I mean, I do like Richie James, but I have no correlation here. I think this is where we do use the correlation tiebreaker for all of these late round picks. I also like a little bit of the rookie black box nature of the pick. So this team's in the books, 3-4-8-3, did a hyper fragile build, have not done a lot of these this year. You can see we are in bucket 1 for running back. Bucket 1 for running back. Where is our target bucket? Bucket 5. Last year was a horrible year for hyper fragile builds. But going back historically, the 2 years before that were not near as bad. But with this set of players, Christian McCaffrey, Tony Pollard, Ramondre Stevenson, I do like mixing it up and employing different structures in smart ways. And so as part of my portfolio, I don't want to have 0 hyper fragile. And we get one here in a draft that I think made sense, right? Because if you look at the decision points, certainly a lot of the time I just take Devonta Smith there with Christian McCaffrey, but then coming back, the wide receivers are wiped out here. I do not like taking Calvin Ridley or Amari Cooper, even having to reach for Debo or Keenan here. It did feel like the best pick on the board for these first 3 rounds was the running back. So I didn't fight it. And I think, Zay Flowers falling to 92, I think would have been fun. But one of the things that was nice about the Sutton pick is it did open me up for this backdoor Denver Chargers stack, which actually came together fairly nicely there for me. So yes, obviously my wide receivers are going to look weaker than they normally do in a hyper fragile build. But if you get guys like Hopkins and Godwin who can perform like second round picks in their higher range of outcomes, then this can work. It's kind of the inverse of what I did in the last draft, right? Where you're taking Kenneth Walker and Joe Mixon in the 5th and 6th round, and there are legitimate question marks about them. That's why they're going in the 5th and 6th round and not at the 1-2 turn. But when you draft them, you are playing like they are top 10 running backs who should be going at the 1-2 turn. Same thing with this. Like when you do a hyper fragile build and you take Hopkins and you take Godwin, you're playing like these guys are second and third round picks. They obviously have the talent to do so. But this goes back to the whole draft like you are right ethos. And in this reality, I am drafting as if DeAndre Hopkins and Chris Godwin are turning the clock back. The final team here, 3-4-8-3 build. Russell Wilson, Jordan Love, Ryan Tannehill at quarterback. Running backs, Christian McCaffrey, Tony Pollard, Ramondre Stevenson, Javonte Williams. Wide receivers, DeAndre Hopkins, Chris Godwin, Treylon Burks, Quentin Johnston, Courtland Sutton, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, and Nathaniel, don't call him Tank Dell. Tight end, Greg Dulcich, Gerald Everett, Dawson Knox. We got Russell Wilson stacked up with Javonte Sutton and Dulcich with the double bring back, Quentin Johnston, Everett. We need fireworks in week 17 there. We got Jordan Love stacked up with both Dobbs and Jaden Reed. Wasn't able to get a Minnesota bring back. Didn't really break right anywhere. And then Ryan Tannehill, we have double stacked with Hopkins and Treylon Burks with Nathaniel Dell on the bring back. So accomplished a lot of the structural and correlation goals that I like to draft here. And I don't mind this team. I know it's not, doesn't have the wide receiver firepower you all want to see from me. But you're just going to have to deal with it. You're just going to have to deal with it, folks. 3-4-8-3. We go Denver, Tennessee, and GB. Boom. In the books, Jacob saying, hell of a day, best ball summer smashes. We got the tank top. We got the bucket hats. By the way, you guys want these in the store. And also, if you're a YouTube member, you get discounts on all merch. I have that pinned in the Discord for those of you who are YouTube members. I appreciate you guys. Like I said, big week on tap here as Hot Best Ball Summer really ramps up. This is going to be a big finish here. Excited to keep things rolling on the channel. Like I said, we have the giveaway still going as we march to 15K subs. In really good shape right now, less than 700 to go. I can check right now and see how we did here on the morning show. Make sure you guys are subscribed. We're at 14,337. So less than 700 away from hitting our 15K goal. When we do, we're going to give out $1,500 to 3 lucky winners, $500 each, not $1,500 to each. I always have to clarify that. And you can get entered by leaving a comment on any of my draft streams. I've made it incredibly easy by making a playlist down below. A lot of you guys go back and watch those and comment. Feel free to do that. The contest ends when we hit 15K subs, so you still have some time to do that. I will be back tomorrow for Splash Play at 10 a.m. Eastern, where I'll be drafting with Spags. And one other thing here, coming up in 10 minutes, we got ADP chasing. So over on Ship Chasing channel, that's a show that Pat Carane, Davis Maddock, and Sam Sherman do. This week, they're having guest Jacob Sanderson on. They're going to talk about the DeAndre Hopkins move and how that should be impacting the ADP landscape. They'll also be talking about Joe Mixon and all of the other big risers and followers on the underdog best ball landscape. So be sure to check that out. Otherwise, I will catch you guys around. Hope you have a wonderful week. We'll see you next time on